Hey there, Will Brink, brinkzone.com. I'm actually going to start this video as a new section to this site. Basically reviews, recommendations, discussions on things that are not sports related, not nutrition related, and so forth. People ask me for reviews on all kinds of things because I have interest in a lot of different things. One of them being audio. I would definitely call myself an avid audio enthusiast. Which I think is a little different than an audiophile. I think audiophile, when you say the term to a lot of people, it kind of sounds a little snooty to them, and they have a vision of a heavily bearded guy with white hair sitting in a chair drinking scotch, listening to some system that costs more than the average person's house and so forth. So I sort of tend to differentiate a little bit between like audiophiles versus audio enthusiasts. And I would definitely consider myself a serious audio enthusiast, 40 plus years now. Got my first little audio set from my father when I was like 8 or 9, and have spent, all those years always trying to upgrade my system and improve my system and learn more about I guess you'd call it a hobby, but on the technical aspects I wouldn't be an expert. Definitely get some really excellent technical expertise and recommendations on pages such as Audioholics, British Audiophile is another really good page, but maybe I'll talk about those guys later. What I want to talk about though is how people can get into good audio really inexpensively. And some of what I'm going to say will make the typical audiophile's head explode. They can be like I say, they can be a very contentious bunch. Surprisingly, Ben, people are not in the audiophile world would think, well, how much arguing and debate can a bunch of people into stereos be? You have no idea. Anyway, so having said that, I think a lot of people don't even really know where to start to get into to good audio. And now notice I'm using the word good versus great. Now, what I'm talking about is good audio, I guess, by my standards. And remember, it is somewhat relative to your starting perspective. I mean, if you've been listening to, some little dinky radio, and then you move up to, a boombox, let's say, to you that might be, really good, satisfying audio. So I'm saying good audio from the perspective I would find basically satisfying as someone who's been into audio a long, long time, to get into the great audio where, it's like awe-inspiring experience and all that. We're talking another level, but what I want to point to is people I say that would like to get into really quality audio, enjoy their experience, take it to another level, and really don't know where to start. I'm going to try to bring something new to this angle. I haven't seen anybody else really go the angle that I'm going to go with this. And like I said, people come into my house or see pictures of my system, and they're like, Will, I really wish I could have a really good system that I enjoyed. I don't know where to start. I don't know the terminology. I don't have the money. I mean, let's be honest, this is a big one. Obviously, I don't have the money. My systems, I've had a lot of different systems over the years, is a good system. Again, you have to understand, by audiophile standards, it wouldn't be considered a high-end system. It would be considered probably a mid-level system. But again, that's relative again to the people. Some people would fall over and faint if they saw what I've spent on a pair of speakers or something like that. So again, it is somewhat relative, but it's a good system. However, people, when they see it, or talk to me or whatever, I think people tend to feel a bit overwhelmed by the audio terminology, the choices out there. So what I'm going to do is, for the average person who, doesn't have a lot of money to spend, wants to get started on something that will really take them to the next level in audio, this will be my advice, and take it or leave it. But like I say, this will not be in line with a lot of audiophiles out there who will, again, come up with a budget. So let's go over the basic terminology again for most people, just we have a reference point, right? Basically a basic an audio system would normally be made up of an amplifier or something that amplifies the signal coming from the preamp, and the preamp is something that basically takes the signal and sends it to an amplifier, which then sends it to the speakers. Voila. The source, of course, of the music it might be a CD player, it could be an MP3, it could be streaming. So you basically have your amplification. I actually probably could have put preamp above that, but anyway, your preamplification, that's where your volume knob is and that type of thing. The source, and then you've got the speakers, and then you've got, you know, a system. That's your basic rundown. I mean, there's lots of ways to break this down. I mean, sometimes like you'll have like an integrated amp, or the preamp and the amp are together. There's actually a whole lot of pretty amazing combinations of electronics these days, but I just want us to have the basic premise of what the basic system ends up like. And I think, again, a lot of the mistake that people make is they don't know what to spend on a system. They don't also realize that audio systems, unless, again, you've just got a lot of money and you can walk into a store and go, I'll take that Mark Levinson, I'll take those Wilson speakers, and you know, just build out this incredible system and go home. Most people do not have the money and the resources to do that, including me. You know, so what a lot of people don't understand is when you're trying to get into good audio, and maybe great audio, it's a process. You build the system. You don't just walk in and buy everything. You might start with something that you really want, and the other stuff is, you know, not the best stuff. It's used stuff. It's whatever it is to kind of, you know, get you going. And then over time, you mix and match. You start pulling one out, and you buy a new thing. It takes time. You know, it can take months or years, or years really to get the system that maybe ultimately makes you happy. And for a lot of audiophiles, it's a never-ending process. So understand that. Again, you may have a system that just makes you happy. You get to that point, and that's it. And you're happy, and you listen to music and really get into it and enjoy it. If not, I've gone through both phases where especially when I was younger, I was always researching and reading and trying to upgrade something and tweaking and all that. And I went through my phases, and then I also put it away for a number of years. I've actually sort of gotten back to it lately. This is why I'm doing this video. It had some thoughts on how to help people get into it. So it is a process. Now, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, understand that obviously the most important factor in any audio system is the speakers. At the end of the day, the speakers are obviously what transmits the signal that they receive into the air that connects with your ears. This is not obviously, you know, a big complicated thing, but again, you'd be surprised how contentious that is in terms of the audio world, is how important do they find the speakers compared to other stuff in the chain, the amplifiers, preamps, and so forth. But if you're not working with a lot of money, obviously the place that you want to put most of your money is into those speakers. At lower price points that you're getting into, you know, you really should probably be putting 80%, maybe even 90% of your initial investment into those speakers. And that way you can start off with something that makes you happy. So how do we amplify? Now here's where we're going to get into the part that I think is a simple way to get into audio that some audiophiles maybe not aren't going to thrill with the idea, but I promise you it works, and it works really well. First, what I would do is I would recommend, let's say you're working with under $1,000. What I would recommend first would be buying a pair of the best active speakers you can afford. An active speaker basically is a speaker with the amplification inside the speaker. There's other types of active speakers, but for our discussion here, an active speaker is a speaker with amplification inside the speaker. So you've already taken care of, you know, the amplification part. And there's a lot of them out there, a lot of good brands. I'll mention a few in a second. That they've been around a long time. This is not a new concept by any means, but they have really, I think, in the last couple of years, maybe a little longer, really come into their own as far as a wide range of choices by a lot of different brands getting into the active market. They've never really been, they've been tried by a number of companies over the years, and the U.S. market at least, I can't speak for European markets, but the U.S. market has never really warmed up in a big way to active speakers, but I think they are now, or have been, you know, recently. So you are seeing a lot of brands get into the active speaker market, a whole bunch of them, and that's great to see, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons why actives have a variety of benefits and advantages over passive speakers, but that's for another discussion. So I would look to buying the best pair of active speakers you can afford, and we're talking $500, $1,000. I mean, obviously the more you spend, as a general rule, the better it's going to get. But you can definitely get some pretty satisfying active speakers, even the $300 range. That's kind of pushing it, but I'll give you a perfect example. I have in my office, which I can't show you because I'm not in my usual office. I have a pair of Paradigm Shift A2 active speakers. Paradigm's a great speaker company, been around a long time. They made a speaker called the Shift A2. Unfortunately, the unfortunate part is they don't produce them anymore. But the Shift A2 was about $600. And that was with the fancy automotive paint job. They're really pretty, actually, speakers. The non-fancy versions were about $500. And those little speakers are really impressive. And if you Google a Paradigm Shift A2 review, you will see people, all the audio magazines and people that have owned them rave about those little speakers. They can produce really good, a very satisfying audio experience. Again, they're not going to make typical audiophile, raving, but again, it's all in the price point. Remember, we're talking about what you're paying here. For $500, including the amplification, those are phenomenal little speakers. Another brand that is getting a lot of attention these days is Edifier. I haven't listened to any myself, but I will say that I hear nothing but good things about them. So you pick a budget, the most that you can afford, and get a pair of good actives, research them online. Again, more you can spend. Now again, around, if you can pull off around $800 to $1,000, there's a lot of really good choices out there for active speakers. So how do you run them? This is the question that I'm going to get to, or the answers I'm going to get to. Say, okay, well, what about all that other stuff you talked about, Will? Well, the one thing, as I talk about building a system, the one thing that covers preamplification, source, and everything is a miracle of technology, and that is your phone. I think, obviously, we've gotten so used to these phones that we still don't appreciate what an incredible technology is stuck in these little phones. So in your phone, you have your preamp, you have your music server, you have your digital to analog converter known as a DAC, you've got your volume controls, you've got everything in this phone. Different phones will have different qualities of DACs in them. That's something you got to research a little bit. But almost any DAC in a modern phone is going to be decent. It might not be great, but it's going to be decent. It's going to be decent enough for you to have a really satisfying experience. You can use your phone, of course, to store your music. You can use it to stream your music. You can do actually quite a few things with it. And this is your preamp. This is your music server. It's right there in your one little phone. And you will take a plug it into your phone. You'll plug it into those speakers, and you will actually experience impressive sound. You really can pull off a pretty impressive sound doing this. Now, you also want to be careful things you need to research. For example, not all streaming audio services are the same. Obviously, the more compressed the packet or the signal is, the worse it sounds. You have like Amazon HD, you have Spotify. Tidal, I have been told, is probably the least compressed, but look into it. But again, you want to keep an eye on that. What you can also do, of course, is download lossless files onto your phone. They will take up a lot of space. But the thing you do want to be careful of course, is where is that file coming from? That will ruin your musical experience if you don't look into that first. If you just grab low quality files or MP3 or stuff, that's going to be noticeably audibly poor. So with a little bit of knowledge, a phone, and a pair of the best active speakers you can afford, you're in good audio. You're going to have a really satisfying experience with audio. Now, what I was going back to talking about building the system. So you start with the best pair of actives you can afford, and then use your phone until you've got more money, and then go and buy yourself a better DAC. Buy yourself maybe a decent preamp / DAC, some combination thereof. Work your way up. But start with the best speakers you can. Figure 80–90%, especially at the lower price points when you don't have a lot of money to work with. I generally tell people spend like 80–90% of what if you've got your phone. A laptop will work too. The sound card in a lot of laptops is perfectly acceptable. Again, a lot of audiophiles will debate that, but that's what they do. So there you have it. That's how you get into audio on the cheap. That is the least expensive way I am aware of to get satisfying audio for the lowest amount of money you possibly can. The mistake that, again, people make is they say, I've got X amount for a system, $1,000, $2,000, whatever, and they want to walk into a store and walk out with a system. That's a mistake. That's how you end up with something either doesn't make you happy or subpar quality because you were trying to do it all at once. And technology today and the quality of technology for less money, as we've all seen how much better phones are than they were, how much better TVs. Same applies to audio. This is the way to do it on the cheap. This is the way to save yourself a whole lot of money. So I hope that helps. If you know, please, as people like to say, subscribe, hit the likes, all that. If you found this info helpful, and I will be back with more reviews of audio stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. That I was going to start a whole separate channel to do reviews of non-nutrition, non-supplement stuff, but I thought I'd start create a playlist on Brink Zone and see where that went. So, see you all in the Brink Zone.